Hello, everyone. I'm here with Scott Glickson at McGuire Woods, talking about business development. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. So do me a favor, and for our audience, just maybe take a minute or so and talk to kind of your background in the legal profession leading up to today.
Okay. I've been practicing law for, since 1975. I started out as a very general corporate lawyer. And then our firm, which at the time was Gordon and Glickson, decided as a strategic matter to focus its practice in the technology marketplace. That goes back to the mid-'80s. So we've been doing that for a long time. So my practice since then has been pretty much focused in representing companies that are producing, servicing, distributing technology products, primarily information technology or telecom, internet, e-commerce products or services.
Okay. And the last 10 years, what have you seen as far as changes, 15 years in the marketplace, in the legal profession?
Well, I think things have gotten a lot more competitive.
Okay.
And maybe particularly so in the space that I'm in. Obviously, 30 years ago when we started representing companies that were doing technology procurements or were technology companies themselves, there weren't a lot of people doing it. It was a new area.
Okay.
And it's obviously grown exponentially over the last 30 years.
Right.
So there's a lot more people doing that.
Right. Right.
Representing companies and a lot more companies. When we first went into it, it was very often the first time that companies were acquiring computer systems. Now, obviously, everybody has more computing power in their hand than they used to have.
Yeah, and in a whole room, right, exactly.
So, so I think the biggest change has probably been just the fact that there are a lot more people in our space. I think overall, law firms have generally had to focus more on providing value. Clients have gotten a lot more sophisticated, so I think we've all had to become better business people as well as better lawyers.
Okay, and maybe that's a good segue to ask was there a defining moment where you realized you could develop business, or you started developing business and got involved in bringing in your own book of business?
I'm not sure there was a moment.
Okay.
But certainly I was fortunate enough to become a partner in the firm. I got hired by George Gordon out of law school. And 2 years into my practice, he made me a partner in the firm. We were a small firm. There were about 12 lawyers at the time, maybe.
Okay.
And about four or five partners. And he didn't put a lot of pressure on developing business on me at the time, but it was pretty clear that if you were going to be a partner in the firm, you should develop some business. So,
okay.
I'm not sure that I had any, well, I'm sure I had no sophistication how to develop business at the time. It was go out and let everybody that I could find know that I was a lawyer and that I was available to do corporate work. And at the time I was also doing real estate work. Let them know what I was doing and hope that they would hire me. As close to a defining moment as I could tell you about would probably be the time where we used to have annual retreats over a weekend for the lawyers in the firm. And one year we hired a fellow to make a presentation to us on selling legal services. And I'm not sure exactly when that was, still pretty early in my career. And he was the first one who really got the point across that there's a big difference between marketing and selling.
Okay.
And his focus was strictly on selling. How do you identify potential clients? How do you get to them? How do you make the sales pitch to them? How do you overcome their objections? Very effective. And actually, the firm must have thought he was effective because we, after that session, put him on retainer, and used him as a consultant, and then for a while we actually brought him in-house for a year and a half to work with all of us on honing our selling skills and coaching on presentations. And
Okay.
Generally,
wow, sounds like a very successful business coach type of person.
I think it was.
Okay.
I think it was. Certainly helped me.
So do you remember something that in particular that he worked with you on that just opened up the door that you just realized, wow, this is...
Yeah, I think probably the most significant thing I remember him stressing, and that made all the sense in the world after I heard it, was to avoid talking to a potential client and just spilling my guts about what a great lawyer I am and what my practice is all about.
I like this guy already.
But to ask open-ended questions and get the prospect talking about what their legal needs are, so that I could address what their needs are, instead of, as I said, spouting off about a whole bunch of stuff that was completely irrelevant to him and probably boring him to death.
Yeah.
And he worked with us a lot on how to ask open-ended questions and avoid the temptation of just talking.
Yeah, it's a lot of attorneys that I work with go on what they call pitch meetings, and these pitch meetings end up being just that. They go in and they just, throw it all on the table and start, telling them why they're so great, about their firm and all this stuff, and not really learning much at all about their prospect's needs.
Right.
Yeah.
And
what a great
prospects
lesson.
are there to hire you for a specific task or or area. If I went on and started talking about what a great real estate lawyer I was, and the client was looking for somebody to do technology licensing agreements, I'm not going to get very far.
Yeah, they're pretty much identifying you as not a good fit right from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a great lesson to learn from anybody. I teach that every day, and it still falls on deaf ears sometimes.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I heard it, lights went off. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world.
Okay. Now,
I agree with that.
Any success stories from internally in the firm where you have seen an associate or maybe a newer partner come up very quickly through the ranks, and you observed what that individual did differently than maybe you did or some other people did that you'd want to share? Anything come to mind on that?
Yeah, actually, two stories. Again, very different. I think very different.
Okay.
One was just about the time we merged in. There was a relatively young associate who had been working with a partner for a particular client, and that partner left the firm, and the associate took it upon himself to pursue the client, and ended up preserving the client for the firm.
Okay.
Which led to a pretty quick partnership because it was a pretty significant client. And he really did, as I understand it, took it upon himself to go after that client, and I think yielded.
You probably said, "Hey, I'm doing the work for you. Where are you going?"
I think that was part of it. I wasn't in on the conversations with him, but I think that was essentially he had developed a good relationship with the client.
Right.
Was not prepared to just watch that client walk off with the partner that had left, and surprised. I think he surprised everybody.
Yeah.
By keeping the client.
That's a great story
for the firm. Another example, and this actually goes into maybe the previous question about what makes people sort of wake up and change the way they've been doing it. We had a fella still here who was a very, very good lawyer. Didn't really do much to develop business. Had gotten to the point of being a non-equity partner on the basis of his performance. Still was not really developing business, but then a client that he was working with that was actually started out as a client of somebody else's, but that he was doing a lot of work for. He discovered that client was looking to consolidate its legal work in one firm. And again, it was a very good-sized client and several $1 million of legal work a year. And he got into the fray. He had actually not been originally invited to participate in the beauty contest that was going on, but he managed to get an invitation, put together a team to pitch for the work, and got it.
Wow.
So he went from, literally next to nothing in terms of his own business production to several $1 million a year.
Wow. I mean, those are the kinds of stories that do get your blood flowing, because it's a rags to riches type of a situation.
Well, it's rags to riches. Look, there's lots of ways people could be satisfied in what they're doing, but I still get a tremendous thrill out of bringing in. I still get a tremendous thrill when somebody calls me with a new piece of work, and and the thrill is only magnified if it's a new client.
Yes, yeah. There's definitely a buzz you get when you bring in some new work, and I think the people that haven't brought in new work maybe don't understand what that's like. And when someone says they're going to put the confidence in you and you've been chosen, it's that
I think that's
it's a good
right.
feeling. Yeah,
it's a validation.
It's a validation.
Yeah.
But I think what I work on with a lot of my clients is a lot of blocking and tackling. They don't have situations where a pot of gold is at the end of the rainbow. They've got to really just the speaking, the writing, the networking, the development of strategic partners, networking with other attorneys. They've got to really go out there and kind of dig deep to make it happen. And
right.
I think that's
true. It's rare that even if you took the second example as going from zero to something very significant.
Yeah.
And forget all the earlier work that the guy was doing on the commercial transactions for a number of years. It's rare that you get something big right off the bat.
Right.
In my own practice, I still work with early stage startup companies because they, my hope is that they grow and that we get to grow our services with them, and that one day, as that other client that sold his business for $70 million said, he was an overnight success after 30 years. That's great. I'd love to have a lot of clients that I've been servicing for 30 years and that ultimately have great exits and are very successful.
Right.
So I think you do have to start. You'd be willing to start small.
Right.
Do the good work and then earn the client's confidence and trust.
Okay. So, kind of my last question is, really revolving around any last kind of parting advice or wisdom for, again, not the worker bee and not the rainmaker, but that middle person. That's my audience. That's who really needs to hear from the more experienced attorneys. In today's competitive environment, what are the top couple things that they need to go out and just start doing right now today to get this going?
Yeah, probably the first thing they have to do is figure out how to find the time and the energy to do it. All right, because one thing we haven't touched on is, in addition to the competition among lawyers and law firms, they're competing with their home life as well.
Yeah.
Almost by definition, the kind of person you just described is probably, relatively newly married, may have some young kids, competing with Little League games and hockey games and ballet and theater and all the things that the kids get into. And it's tough to find the time and the energy to do it because, especially in today's world, those same people are expected to be billing 1,800 to 2,000 billable hours a year.
Yeah.
So you can get stretched.
I mean, one of the things that I work on routinely is exactly what we're talking about, because if you think about it, if I'm looking to make a pot of chili and I don't have the ingredients, I don't have a recipe, I've never cooked before, and now you expect me to make some blue ribbon chili, it's going to take a long time. That's a lot of bad batches after bad batches. However, if I'm able to work with someone like myself or read a great book or go to a seminar like what happened with you years ago with that gentleman who came into your firm, you get to understand what a plan could look like. You get to learn what a process could be or what the recipe could be. And you're shortening up your... Now I'm pitching for what I do. But
that would have been my second point. My second point would have been get a mentor.
Get some help, yeah.
Okay? Whether it's somebody in the firm that you have a relationship with that can mentor you, whether it's an outside consultant like you do, get somebody who's been there and done that.
Yeah.
And that you have a good relationship with.
Right, and it's hypocritical if I didn't hire coaches myself. I've probably had 4 or 5 different coaches over my last 10 years. Mm-hmm. One of them was for speaking and writing. Another one was for helping me, build out operations in a business. Another one was for I think I'm a pretty smart guy. However, there's people that have been there, done that can shortcut how I do things and by years. and I'm not going to have to make the mistakes over and over again to figure it out, which I like to. My wife will tell you I like to do, make the same mistakes. But we can shortcut all that. Certainly a value.
Right. There's no question about it.
So find the time and energy. Get some help or a mentor, coach, etc. Be patient.
Be patient. Don't give up on it. It's like anything else. It takes a while, and we all go through dry spells.
Okay.
But you just have to stay at it, and still practice law.
Yeah, right. And still, by the way, do all the hours, and by the way, also take care of your family. And
yeah.
So no, I don't think anyone's gonna say, "Oh, that's easy." I don't think anything that's good or worthwhile is ever, typically comes easy.
Right.
Right. So it's got to be, persevering.
And there's always distractions.
Yeah.
And we all get tired and we all get frustrated. And then something changes. One thing we haven't touched on that I think is a big part of developing business today, and it has to be sanctioned at least by the firm that you're with, or if you're a sole practitioner or a small group, you better get good at this anyway. Is what goes under the rubric of alternative fee arrangements. We got a piece of business just a few months ago that we were competing for with another major firm, and we got it because they refused to even propose an alternative fee arrangement. And we walked into the client saying, it was a new business, we will be happy to consider an alternative fee arrangement as long as it makes sense for both of us.
Yeah, so I think that could be one way to look at it, being flexible and trying to find a win-win outcome. And a fee arrangement could be one way.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Okay. I think that's really important. I think some firms are going to be less flexible than others on doing that, unfortunately. So
right.
They may have to.
As I said, it's got to be sanctioned by your firm.
It's got to be, yeah.
If the firm says, no, we're not, we're just going to continue doing hourly rate billing, okay, that's what it is. That's what it is. You need to find another way, again, to compete with the people that are offering the alternative fee arrangements, because it's all in that value proposition.
Right. Okay. Well, Scott Glickson, thank you so much. This was helpful, and I appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to hearing good things down the road.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Great.